when you look at a lot of military history, there are constant chances of where leaders could have delivered a completely decisive blow, knocking out opponents' armies. History is full of them. And I think this is where we are now with this situation, because I think if Johnson isn't gone by the end of this week, this could be a long-term thing. I really do think, because this either goes fast because the Tories are desperate to protect their brand. Many of the new, as I've said before, the 2019 intake, especially the Red Wall Tory MPs, are desperate to try and separate themselves from, shall we say, their fellow Tory counterparts. They are desperate to distance themselves, say, we're not, we're not like the rest of the Tory party. We're different, we're new. Not only that, but they're desperate to keep their seats and positions. And just recently, again from this weekend, when some of these polls were done, or even focus groups were done in these red wall seats, they are indeed incredibly angry at Boris Johnson and the MPs for not acting quickly enough to get rid of him. Question is this going to be long and drawn out, or might Boris be gone by Friday? I'm doing this on the 18th. Who knows? Maybe he could be gone in less than an hour's time. I literally don't know. We're still in that territory. We are still officially in Boris watch still. But will this be long and drawn out, or will this be a very quick, shall we say, swift decapitation? The ball is still well and truly in the Tories' court for this. So before we go diving into this, let's remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and my one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. And of course, let's dive on into this. So this comes from The Guardian with the title of "Even if the Tories want Boris Johnson to go, no one is ready to wield the knife." When the former Downing Street pollster James Johnson ran a focus group on Partygate in the Redwall seat of Bolton North East, the feedback wasn't exactly encouraging for number 10. Some of the disparaging comments from those voters who backed the Tories for the first time in 2019 included, "I think he's completely lost everyone's trust. He needs to resign, and I don't really see how we can carry on." When people were asked whether they would vote for Johnson now, not a single person put their hand up. That reaction won't come as much of a surprise to many Tory MPs in Westminster after a weekend in their constituencies. While the Prime Minister and his team have tried to win over the parliamentary with regular trips to the tea room and Operation Red Meat, which aim to try and please the base with right-wing policies, the charm offensive is yet to work on the grassroots. "It's bleak," says one loyalist MP. "The problem is it's not the usual suspects. Instead, it's our core base, all according to someone on the government payroll. The new revelations on Friday that number 10 staff were indeed partying on the eve of Prince Philip's funeral have driven many MPs to distraction. As one points out, members of their local associations often belong to other community organisations and take an extremely dim view of lax attitudes to the rules. There is something almost impressive about managing to piss off absolutely every group of society," observes a former advisor. And in the face of criticism from even usually supportive newspapers, MPs are discovering new coping mechanisms. One senior Tory MP had a media blackout at the weekend, and complaints from his constituencies were just enough. Yet, for all the anger, it is still unclear how Johnson would actually go. MPs fall roughly into two camps: those who want him out before the next local elections, and those who ought to think he would be given until to try and given time to try and turn things around. The group most eager to see the back of their Prime Minister, though, is made up of those who have council seats up for grabs in May. Candidates are talking of dropping out and even warning of electoral oblivion. And in order to try and avoid this fate, they argue that a new leader is required at the national level. They are backed by long-time Johnson critics. Scottish Tories are increasingly in this, with Liberal Democrat Tory marginals. Giving the Liberal Democrats managed to try and overturn the very chunky majorities in the Chesham and Amersham and, of course, North Shropshire by-elections. This group doesn't feel as though they need to wait until May. However, many MPs do believe that Johnson will cling on until then. Bar no new damaging disclosures, first, the next Tory leadership contest will not be a very tidy affair. There is no unity candidate. The two former frontrunners, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, have their supporters, but also ample critics. Already a stop Truss contingent is forming. MPs are either keen to keep Johnson in place to avoid this fate, or to try and work to stop the Foreign Secretary reaching the membership in any contest. Given that she is the grassroots favourite, they view it as too risky to have her in the final two. And of course, with potential candidates being tipped up to including the running, including the Education Secretary Nadeem Zawawi, the former Defence Secretary Penny Mordaunt, the chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee Tom Tugnett, and former Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt, the contest is already looking rather crowded. To get to 54 letters and then start and complete a leadership contest now between then and April is very overly ambitious, says members of the government. There is also self-serving reasons ministers are keen to put off a contest. The mantra of "he who wields a knife never wears the crown" is weighing heavily on the contenders. Such a move could lead to a backlash among Johnson loyalists and make entry into the leadership contest more difficult. A lot of colleagues want him to take us to the local elections and to let the public vote on him. Someone says someone on the payroll. It's a neater way of doing things. Another MPs argue, though, that those activists who support Johnson need to see proof that he is no longer an electoral asset. But the calculation could change. While the fact that there is no obvious successor in helping Johnson stay in his position, things could get so bad that MPs ultimately decide it's just best to get rid of him. And of course, the problem will then work the solution out afterwards. While Downing Street aides are optimistic that he will survive, Sue Gray's report and MPs are carefully studying his reaction. Johnson's failing in the poll ratings may suggest that voters have already indeed made up their minds, and any more denying reality or making excuses will feed into the very complaints that were raised in the Bolton focus group. The issue for the Prime Minister is that the Partygate crisis is not yet a Conservative-wide scandal. It's a Boris Johnson scandal. If MPs conclude that they need to move fast in order to stop it contaminating the whole Tory party brand permanently, he will be out sooner rather than later, even if the question of who will succeed him remains up in the air. And I think that's more an accurate summary of really where we are at the moment. Again, the two potential successors, of course, are Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. And as you said there, she is very, very popular with the grassroots. If she makes it to the final two, she wins. There is no doubt at all that she doesn't win this. If she makes it to the final two, it's hers to win. She is by far the most popular member. She will win by a country mile. Every time last year, she was about 10 points ahead of everyone else in the poll, even when Rishi Sunak was at the height of his popularity. She was even beating Rishi by 10 points. So obviously the fact that there is a group clearly forming to try and stop Liz Truss from even getting to the final two just shows you how worried they are about her winning. And as I've said before, I think, if you wanted to put money on this, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak are probably like your safe bets. Of course, if you wanted to go for the Hunt long shot, then, there's always, Dominic Raab, and of course the rest of all of the cohorts that are out there. But yeah, that leadership contest is going to be brutal, absolutely brutal. But the question is this going to be long and drawn out, or is Boris going to be gone by Friday? I think if he isn't gone by Friday, I think they're going to wait until May. I think they're going to wait until the Sue Gray report comes out. But bearing in mind, Johnson's lost all his popularity. The fact that we've had Operation Red Meat and all these very, quote, right-wing policies might have settled some Tory MPs' mind, but again, it's a matter of getting them done. And some of those things aren't, shall we say, particularly all that well good for the country as a whole. But that's a discussion for another time. But of course, we are still very much in Boris watch mode, and we'll have to see what happens from here. But this is looking that it might turn out to be, shall we say, a long drawn out process rather than a quick and done one. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.